Hey, and welcome to the Drive Your Line podcast. This is where we talk about everything karting, all aspects, chassis, engines, manufacturers, rules, races, series, and so much more. Be sure to come back and listen. Hey, thank you for joining us. It's a day late and probably more than $1 short, but we're happy to be here at the Audio Alchemy Studios and coming to you live with the Drive Your Line podcast. We have an exciting evening, and once again, I enjoy doing these podcasts. They bring a different light to our sport than what we normally see, and we bring in a cast of characters that are definitely new to us, in various portions of the sport. So we concentrate a little bit on everything. In case you have a phenomenal dirt racer that you would like me to showcase, please contact me. My email is Christy at driveyourline.com. Tell me about them, tell me how to get a hold of them, and we will definitely get them on. Tonight's show, we have actually 2 different, ends of the spectrum. We have Cap Henry, who started in karting in Ohio on the dirt and seems to find his way back to the dirt driving a 410 sprint car. He was one of my all-kart kids back in the '90s. Yeah, Cap, I still call you an all-kart kid. He went from a baby cart into a full-size cart and never looked back. Also, we are going to be joined by Kelly and Lindsay Read-Simon. They're coming off of their event at Lake Afton with Midwest Karting Association, and that event was very well received. And I believe this is their second time this year, so we're glad to see that series back up and running and doing very well out in the Midwest. So I'm not going to waste a whole heck of a lot of time, but I will give you a few updates. In case you haven't noticed, the WKA garages for road racing are completely sold out. I tried to get one, actually 2 of them yesterday, and was told, I think we're sold out. Sure enough, today they announced it. So if you waited, you're going to be like us out in the out on the asphalt, which is not such a bad thing. But them storms can be wicked. Hope we have good weather this year. Last year we opened up with a pretty good storm and a lot of wind. So I pray, cross my fingers that this one's going to be a bit better. Those of you going to the sprint track, you guys don't have the same problems us road racers do, but hopefully you guys should have some good entries this year, and I hope for a good turnout for Kart Week in Daytona again this year. For those of you who don't know, Kart Week is always the 27th through the 30th every year. It's not a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday always. So be sure to check the calendar. There's still time to get your stuff ready and get there. This is one of those events that you go to and you can always say, I raced at Daytona International Speedway. That is a luxury not afforded by all. So take it while you can get it, and I hope to see you there. Please come by the Drive Your Line tent and or garage. Hopefully I can get one from somebody soon. If not, we'll still be out there in the asphalt, and you'll find us over by Lad Specialties, and you can't miss the bright green, pink, and black on white tents of Drive Your Line. Tonight, we do have a sponsor joining us, and that is traileralarms.com. That is Lyle at traileralarms.com, and he is phenomenal. Some of his stuff is the best in the country. You can get everything from a noise alarm at 120 decibels on into something more complex where it locks down the brakes, flashes the lights, and will provide GPS in case they do get off with your trailer. And this is a system that you can put in yourself. You don't need somebody else to come out and do it for you. It should take half a day, and I should have my system here very soon. I'm looking forward to getting that into our rig, and that way I can get a better sleep at night because I get PTSD hearing stories about people's stuff stolen from parking lots. First thing I do when I get up in the morning is I go to the window of the hotel. Yep, the cinder block's still out there. So I'd like to be able to set it and forget it and sleep with peace of mind. If you would like to know about traileralarms.com, you can get a hold of me on driveyourline.com, or you can go ahead and get a hold of Lyle at traileralarms.com. Tell him we sent you, and we'll go ahead and make sure that you get handled. Anyway, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and talk to Cap Henry. Cap Henry, like I said, started in dirt karts, moved up into sprint karts, kind of beat around in the state of Ohio and several nationals, and found his way into 410 sprint cars, which is where he is today with Jeff Ward Motorsports in the 33W. Cap, how are you this evening?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Hey, we're finally here in the studio kicking this one off, and I'm glad that you accepted my offer. It's really exciting to be able to talk to you. I think the last time we saw each other, you were probably 12.
Oh, if that. Yeah, it had been a few years. God, I probably still would have been racing that cadet cart the last time I saw you, to be honest.
Probably so. So tell us a little bit how you got started in karting. I know that your family is pretty historic when it comes to sports car racing. So, what can you tell me about how your career started?
So my career actually started at a local dirt track that was down the street from my grandparents' house. I would go over there on Sundays and hang out, and you could hear them running flathead Briggs down the street, and I always thought it was really cool. Dad knew what was going on and didn't really want to take me down there because he knew it would happen. So finally, one day, my grandpa took me down there, and I instantly just fell in love with it. I thought it was cool, it was neat. So it started from there. Dad got two go karts, and we started running. I actually started driving in like a vintage dirt cart that was my grandpa's go kart. Um, and it just started from there. Did When I started, we did a lot of dirt. Did a lot of road course stuff. Fremont, Hasselbach's, right in my backyard. So a lot of laps there, and that's kind of where it spiraled from.
So, I think when I met you guys was the Ohio Sprint Series in the mid '90s. And your dad had come over. We were all cart dealers at the time. And shout out to Angelo Sedano. I speak to Ange a couple times a month. I'll talk to him, and he watches the podcast. So I'm sure he's probably watching this evening. But all cart was very, very good to us. I started racing European carts with all cart, both road race and sprint. And I'm very happy for the customers that I had back in those days because they helped show me the way when it came to how to support your customers, how to help people at the track. And that's not something that everybody finds that comes easily. So your dad was one of those first that we cut our teeth on, and I'm very thankful, and I hope that those experiences were good for you too as well.
Yeah, they definitely were. I mean, still to this day, my dad has the all cart uniform like stuck on a mannequin up at the shop
That's
uptown,
awesome.
where the slot car tracks are. But yeah, those all carts were really good go karts. Like we won, God, so many races with that all cart cadet cart. And then Angelo, actually, I remember, I think the next year, I don't remember if it was through you or through Angelo direct, but he got us the newer cadet cart. And I actually remember we didn't like it. And I went back to running my old go kart, and we ran that thing for years and years. Dad and I were just talking about the other day that I won a bunch of races in that thing, and I remember we sold it, and then at some point he reacquired it, and I think it got resold again later on. But yeah, it was always just such a positive experience. Those go karts, we were very, very new to the two cycle side of karting when we met you, and I'm sure you answered a bunch of dumb questions for my dad. But it was just a really good go kart. It was an easy kart to transition to from the four cycle karting that I had done before. Moving into that two cycle stuff, it just drove really good, and it was a really easy go kart to be fast in.
I know that the, full size cart and the very unusual front end that it had, I used to tell people I could make it stick to a wall, and though it was sort of it could be a high grip chassis, but it was so easy to loosen it up, and it was so easy to drive, it was easy to manipulate, um, and it was easy to work on. It wasn't overly complicated, so, if anybody out there has an old Tomahawk, all cart Tomahawk, call me. I would love to buy it. I would love to have another one back. Um, excuse me. They were just amazing go-karts. The front end, how it was designed, I've never seen anything like it. Um, so you get through the all cart era and you still beat around in karting for quite a while. About what time do you make your step out of karting into something else?
So it was 2004 was when I went from racing. I was racing shifter carts. Actually, I was doing Stars of Karting on the West Coast. Um, and we made it through about halfway through the year. I was racing for RBI, who Alan Rudolph was also racing for at the time, and we were really
Oh,
close friends with Alan. So we get about halfway through the year, and I just tell Dad I'm not having any fun. Like we were struggling, and it wasn't going well. Um, I had run pretty well in the shifter karts up to that point, so it was like it was odd that we were bad, just not good. Um, so about that time, some friends of ours, my dad had sponsored Craig Mintz and John Ivy through the kart shop, but with safety gear, flame retardant safety gear through G-Force Racing Gear. So Craig's dad, Les, has been a longtime friend of ours. He goes, well, hey, we're selling Craig's 305 stuff. He was 410 racing already. We're selling Craig's 305 stuff at the end of the year. He goes, I think we can do something to get Cap in a car sooner. How about we try it? And initially I wasn't for it at all. Sprint car racing didn't interest me in the slightest bit. At that point in time, I had to run pavement because I was only 14 years old. You had to be 16 to run dirt. So I had to go pavement racing. So I started at Sandusky Speedway, and I absolutely hated it at first. Like it wasn't any fun. The cars, I had only raced some car stuff a handful of times, so I didn't really interest me. It drove very strange to me still at that time. And so we raced it once, and I did okay in my first race. I don't really remember where I finished, but it was okay. And then I actually crashed the second time I ever raced. It wasn't my fault, but still crashed. And so still to this day, Les jokes with my dad that I owe them a frame from this car there as I crashed. But after that, we got a newer car and started racing the next year and just stuck with it. And to be honest, the number one reason we went sprint car racing was because it paid something. As you know, doing the road course karting stuff, it doesn't pay anything. And even as you move up the ladder to make money, like it's a long time until you might ever get to the point where you're being paid to drive. And it wasn't like that with the sprint car stuff. Pretty quickly I was able to get to the point where we were getting paychecks back. So that's the number one reason we went the direction we did.
So, how many years did you spend kind of beating around in dirt racing before you settled into a stride as to where you're at now?
Um, so I, it would have been, probably from 2006 to 2009. I kind of did the local scene, 305s, 360s, some 410 stuff. And then in 2010, Dad made the push that, if I was going to get good doing this, we had to race with good guys. So in 2010, we did my rookie year with the All-Star deal. And looking back at it, it was probably at the time it was too soon. But in that same hand, it pushed me to be better quick. So I'd say from 2010, that's when, it got serious. And, I ran full time with the All-Stars in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. 2013 was when we shut down my family owned car. So that was the breaking point when I had to get rides. So 2014, 2015, I raced around home in a couple of different cars. 2016, I was back on the All-Star deal full time with the Coomer Motorsports car. That only lasted 1 year. And then in 2017, I started the year off racing for the Buffalo Wild Wings team out of South Dakota.
Yep.
And that only lasted about half the summer when I ended up back home again. And that was when I met up with the Lanes, and I raced their car locally the rest of that year. I raced it full time locally in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 22 was when I went on the road with the All-Stars with them. And then in 2023 is obviously that was when at the end of 22 is when the split from the Lane car happened. And then 2023, I started with the Jeff Motorsports team.
So I'll share. You got Cap Henry in the corner. You got Ryan Smith in the other corner. Of course, various other stickers and decals, but the Cap Henry Lane car is up there in the top left. The Lane car kind of put you on the map as a front runner, did it not?
I don't know if it put me on the map as a front runner. It was definitely the years I feel that I probably matured the most, and kind of got my driving where it really needed to be. That was the same time period. 2019 was the first year that Zach Myers came on board as my crew chief. And obviously to this day, Zach is still my crew chief. And I think it was just that pairing did a lot for my career. And that was, when we put some of the really good years together. 2020 was a standout year, and then 2023 again was a really good year. And 2021 and 22 was those full-time all-star years, and that was the time period that Flow and the all-stars got really, really popular. So it just made my name more known at that point, because those broadcasts were so popular. There was people that I would do those years, and people would ask if I was running for rookie of the year with the all-stars, not realizing I had done it 10 years prior. So it was that popular that it just helped make my name more known at that point.
So you get into sprint car racing. How much did you do much time, if any, behind the wheel of a midget leading up to this?
No. So I ran a Kenyan midget at Speedrome, and I think I raced it 5 times at best.
So
Um,
how did you make the jump from 410 wheelman to the Chili Bowl?
so we had a dirt midget. I forgot about this. We had a
I
dirt
didn't.
midget, and I ran the Chili Bowl twice for my dad. I'm going to say the years were 2008 and 2009, if I remember correctly. So I did the Chili Bowl twice. And then, a couple years ago, Cindy Elliott from Elliott's Custom Trailers and Karts, great supporter of mine and the team. She asked if I would want to do it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I haven't done it in a long time. It would be fun. So I ended up running the Buck Walters car. And I had a lot of fun. And the Buck Walters were great people. Steve and
Oh, the
Grayson and
legendary.
yeah, all his whole team. It was so much fun. They're really good people. And it went well. Considering I think it was my third dirt midget start ever, and I hadn't done it, and God, it was. I think they announced it was like 14 years or something since I had previously attempted to run the Chili Bowl, and it was fun. So last year I passed on running their car again because I was supposed to go down to New Zealand and run some dirt midget and sprint car stuff in New Zealand, and last minute it fell through. So I ended up not going, and then last minute we put a deal together for me to jump in that 7 car that I ran out there for Kevin Ramey. And then this year I'm actually pretty excited that everything should be taken care of, and I'm going to jump back in the Buckwalter car again this year for Chili Bowl.
So you are going back to the Chili Bowl.
That's the plan right now. It's not guaranteed yet, obviously, but that is the game plan right now.
One of our junior drivers on our Drive Your Line kart sport team, Derek Wargo, and his dad were invited by somebody in his dad's industry to attend their very first Chili Bowl, and his mind was blown. He says, this is a psychosis on serious octane. And that was probably the best description I've ever heard. The Chili Bowl, if you guys have never seen what the Chili Bowl is or don't know what it is, look it up. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is always during the coldest time of the year, in the middle of the coldest portion of the country, and they have this huge how long what does it encompass day-wise now?
It's over a
Yeah,
week.
the Tulsa Shootout.
It's exactly a week, or if not a week. I think you practice on Sunday and then they race the rest of the week, and you only run, one prelim and then the final on Saturday. So like a lot of the guys will fly home if they run early in the week, or otherwise you just end up hanging out all week.
So we've had tickets. Alan and I have had tickets, what, 4 years? Yeah, and last year we finally gave them up because we never could make it. Between getting ready for Daytona and finishing up the season and me moving, and we just never found the time to go, and Lindsay and Kelly, or Lindsay, I don't know if Kelly went, she probably left him at home, but Lindsay went, I know, one year and used our tickets, and they said, "Man, they were phenomenal seats." So all of our friends have told us how great it is. I just wish I could make it. Um, so what do you feel contributed the most to your karting that made you such a good driver on dirt? Where did you think that crossover came?
Um, for me, I think it was the fact that I spent so many years road course racing that I look at dirt racing a little bit differently. Um, a lot of people comment that I will come up with unconventional lines and ways to achieve, what, the end result. I think it's just because I ran so many years doing road course stuff and doing different stuff where, the lines weren't always just easy, and, passing in road course stuff, it's really hard. Um, so I think that's what helped. And then obviously I ran a lot of dirt karting. And that always made me more on the aggressive side when I ran pavement stuff. Um, so
I think
and
it gives you a
that's
different level of car control.
yeah, definitely just like when I got into the sprint car thing, I'm not gonna say it came naturally, but it wasn't god awful. I picked up on making moving the right lines and had a fair idea on how to read the racetrack. And something that I think I did take from my karting years was I typically have a pretty good sense of speed, like feeling speed in the car. When I move around on the racetrack, knowing, if where I move to fast or if I feel slower than what I was doing before, I have a pretty good sense of that when I'm in the car.
Well, if your dad was like my dad, you went out with a setup that you had no idea what the hell you were getting. It might be 3 different compounds, a seat strut missing, tire pressure might have got checked, and you were told, "Go make the best of it."
Yeah, it was. Dad definitely was not. I've God, he had. Remember, he had. I don't remember who wrote him, but he had one of those setup books, and he called it the Bible. And those things were so outdated, and they're still outdated. And I love Dad to death, but he's still. If he could set up a go kart tomorrow with that book, he would, no matter what I told him. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was fortunate too that once my karting career got moved on, dad did step aside and he paid or ran another go-kart so that I would have full-time crew chiefs that were up to date on what was going on. So I'll be honest, I've been pretty fortunate a lot of my career that I've spent time in stuff that handled pretty close to how it should. But I've had a lot of really good mentors over the years. Like I said, Alan Rudolph is a really good friend of mine. Actually, it was kind of funny when I was doing the B-Dubs car in 2017. I ended up in Texas to go drive it, and I had a day to mess around,
Off to
and
speed sports.
I ended up at Alan's school that he had started. I didn't even know he had moved to Texas. The last I knew, he was still in Arizona at Bondurant's. And Dad's like, "Oh, you're not far from Alan." And I met up with him, and he acted like he had just seen me yesterday, and
Oh, yeah.
it had been years since I saw Alan, and it was fun. So Alan, and then like I said, Craig Mintz and John Ivy growing up. I had a lot of really good role models, and those guys played big parts of my career. It's really cool now. John Ivy's still racing. Obviously, he's at the other end of his career, but he'll come down and congratulate me every time we win a race, and to me, that's really special.
So, you were coming off of the Ohio Speed Weeks, you won the series, and I know that you've done most of your racing in Ohio. Tell me a little bit about the go-kart track that you started at and where it is today, because I know that your dad was very instrumental in keeping it going with the Smiths, and now he manages or helps run their dirt track. What could you say about the little tiny bull ring that is Fremont?
God, Fremont Raceway Park. Um,
Those little tracks make you, man.
yeah, so I have obviously raced there forever. I started racing there in 1995 was the first year I raced there, and I just won a race there. Got maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
So you're still crawling in a go-kart.
I am whenever I can. It's just it's one of those tracks. If you look at it from an aerial view, it looks really really simple. It looks like it shouldn't be that hard, but it is. It's one thing to get around it, but it's a whole nother thing to make speed on it. Um,
Columbiana's the same way. People would show up and go, "This is it." It's like, "All right, chief, I wanna see you make that
yeah,
right-hander better than that 14-year-old girl."
yeah,
And they usually came back with their helmet in their hand, scratching their head going, "Man, that thing's harder than it looks."
yeah. So there's so many people that have run Fremont Raceway Park over the years. Carson Smith has been running it now for the past few years, and I'll give Carson a lot of credit. He's doing a really, really good job with it. Just the other day, I went out there Sunday. I didn't race, but helped some people, um, and made the my crew chief's little boy Caden's racing go karts now. And I made the comment to Zach when him and I were standing there that I haven't seen this many kids at the racetrack in 10 years at least.
Well,
So
I'm happy to hear that you're going back and giving back and providing what your knowledge is to the next generation. We need more people giving those old school tips and techniques and mind thought, because a lot of times what happens is they hire somebody and they don't learn anything. And the cart's already set up and they just go and drive it. So I'm glad to hear that sometimes, you step out of the car and you're over there helping these people and you're helping them grow the sport, especially in Ohio where you can't throw a rock and not hit 2 or 3 racetracks now. How often do you get the chance to make it to Fremont? I know with your schedule,
um,
it's gotta be hectic.
it depends. This year I think I've gone 3 or 4 times maybe. I used to try and race every time I could, and it doesn't always work out. Just life. But I try and race as much as I can. I'm actually really excited. The Smiths are putting on the Clyde Street race again.
Yeah,
I put in my entry for that, so I'm super excited to go do that again.
when
That's
is
one of my
it when is Clyde?
September 22nd, 10 days from
We'll
now.
be at we will be at, Savannah. Yeah, we'll be road racing in Savannah. Darn it. So what's the next step for Cap Henry? Where do you think your career is going versus
Uh,
where you want it to go?
I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm 34 years old now.
Just a kid, just a kid.
I God, I wish. I'm pumped. Next year, I can run 35 and over. I can finally run the senior class and be eligible on age. Um,
You can
at
run
this,
masters.
yeah, exactly. I can run the old guy class now at 35. At this point, I think where I'm at in my career, like it is what it is. Like this is the career I have. I don't see me getting a full time traveling sprint car ride again, or not to the extent that I would like. Um, and I'm okay with that. I'm not. It's not something that like I'm fighting this inner demon that I need to travel. We tried this year with the 2MD car, and it just hasn't worked out the way we hoped it would. Not to lack of effort by anybody. But I'm happy with what I'm doing. Winning Ohio Speed Week this year, that was a huge bucket list thing to me to check off. All those years I spent with the All Stars, I really wanted to win that. So to pull that off this year was a really big deal. So to say that I'm probably at the peak of what my career is going to be, I feel is a fairly accurate. But I'm okay with that. Um, I have a really good day job. I work at SCS Gearbox in Bellevue, Ohio. The long, the short way to put a long story is that it is a machine shop that's dedicated to motorsports. I do sales and tech support for them. They pay me well. They treat me well. So life's okay.
That's all that matters is everything works out for you.
Yeah.
Cap, I wanna thank you for spending some time with us and sharing your story. If there's one bit of advice you could give to a young racer, what would it be?
Um, the biggest advice I can give is I'm gonna go with two. The one is just don't give up. You got to have that self belief in yourself. If nobody else believes in you, you got to believe in yourself. The other thing I'm gonna say is be nice to as many people as you possibly can. You never know who down the road might be a good connection to have in your corner. And that's played out a lot in my life the last few years. People that I never thought would make a difference in my career have been huge supporters. So those are my two things.
And that's pretty good advice. A lot of people don't understand that what they do in the pits and how they act and how they interact with everybody else will always be a reflection on them in the future. And people will always remember the bad over the good. And so if you're always kind and you're always professional, then they have nothing bad to remember you by. And I wish that more of our racers understood at the end of the day in karting, we're still racing for a plastic trophy, something insignificant when it comes to the grand scheme of life. And the best thing you're going to take out of this are good memories, great friends, and be able to participate with in a sport that just does nothing but give to you. And you don't realize that until you're away from it. And thank you so much for your message. I'm sure it will be well received by many.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on. This was fun.
Thank you, Cap. Let's do it again in the future when you win the next Speed Week.
Wait, I mean, that's at least next year. So we got
That's right. You got a year to tune
a
up.
year to figure this out. Maybe I can get something to hold this camera by then.
I'll send you a stick.
Perfect. Even better.
You have a great night, buddy. I appreciate you.
You too. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. It was really nice to be able to reconnect with Cap. Like he said, we haven't seen each other in many years, but being from Ohio myself, I have attended many sprint car races that he has run in, and even in our house today, living here in Mississippi, we all watch Flow Racing, Speed Vision, or not Speed Vision, Dirt Vision, and it's amazing because we have a saying, "Well, Cap's out doing Cap shit again," and he will come out and qualify first lap, second lap, boom, quick time. And we love it when we see him at the top of the charts. And he is an extremely talented driver. Be sure you watch him, follow him, Cap Henry Racing. And you can also catch him at Cap Henry on Facebook. And he will also be on Flow Racing anytime that the sprint races are picked up on that particular platform. You can bet your butt he'll be there. So, anyway, we have a few people to thank. We're coming off of Talladega Grand Prix. This was the Tom Speaks Memorial. And as you all know, we lost Tom here about 2 years ago. Yeah. Tom was a great influence. He was quite the character, and we when Van Gilder called me up and said this has to be the Tom Speaks Memorial, the Talladega Grand Prix Raceway was considered his home track, and we were very very pleased with the turnout that we had, how things ran. Had a lot of input from racers because this event will always be a fun event. We don't know if it'll become a national where you have points on the line, or will it be more popular as a fun type event where everybody can just come, unwind, have a good time, and enjoy themselves. Um, we also had Vance Metal Products, and David Neal was one of our sponsors, and we were very happy to have him on board. We also had Mark's Beans and Barbecue, who fed the staff and some of the racers, and that is also going to become Mach 5 fiberglass. And Mark Purdue will start producing fiberglass bodies and seats here very soon. And now that we've gone through all of the important stuff with sponsors, now let's get to our next contestant on the Drive Your Line podcast, and that will be Kelly Reed and Lindsay Read-Simon.
Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
Oh my gosh, Kelly's got a smile on his face. Hey, so thank you for joining me. You guys are located in Wichita, Kansas, and here pretty soon, hopefully, you'll be getting the rain that we have. Um, Tell me a little bit about how everybody got started in karting. For everybody who doesn't know, this family is synonymous with road racing. And if you haven't seen him at a track, chances are if you've been to Mid-Ohio, you've seen Kelly. He goes there and works just about every year, and they have their own small series in Kansas, the Midwest Karting Association, which has been around for many years. And I'd love to hear about how you guys got started as a family, and how did you roll this into the organization you're working with now?
Well, since Lindsay wasn't born yet, neither of your brother Brad, my father started racing in 1964. 1958 when I was born. I started racing. I started racing in 1967 on a local sprint track here in Wichita, Kansas. In fact, there's Brad on the right and Lindsay on the left. As you guys can probably tell, that was probably a couple years ago. But them two had some great battles in our piston court class that we had around the countryside, so that was good. But Brad, my son, when he turned 8, well, actually he was 7. He was interested in racing go-karts. At that time, I said, you know what? It's time for Dad to hang up the helmet. So I basically sold everything but my toolbox and went out and bought him all new stuff to make mama happy. So he wasn't driving old stuff. He got into it. He had a great career in racing. And then here comes Lindsay. A few years later, they're 3 years apart. She's Miss Competitive. Okay,
Anything he can do, I can do better. That was
Of course.
everything about our life.
that's what it was. So she gets into it, and away we go. As far as Midwest Karting Association, uh, which is basically we promote the racetrack, what we call Lake Afton in Garden, Kansas, which just outside of Wichita, Kansas. Uh, we started doing this in 1985. I took over for a local club that's been doing it since 1961 called the Wichita Kart Club. And so me and the wife, I talked her into her following me, we'll say, supporting me. We took it and away we went. We've been doing it ever since then. We run there twice a year. It's kind of like what you was just talking about there. It's going to a park that basically has a beautiful racetrack that has got camping scenery in it. Okay, I mean you camp there, and we also race there. It's unbelievable. As a matter of fact, it is the only now existing non-road race track out there. We lost Garnett, which is up in Garnett, Kansas, a few years ago. My understanding, they are repaving it, and there's a possibility it may come back.
Ooh,
Midwest
that's
Karting
exciting.
took this thing, and we went with it every year. I've got a good group of people behind me. We even have a Boy Scout troop, 494 out of Valley Center, up where Lindsay lives. They come out, they run my main gate to do my concessions. I've even got some of the parents, the fathers and stuff, to do some of my corner workers. So that's a good fundraiser for them, and it does real good. Our events are laid back. This year, we decided to go on what we call standalone. Other words, we're not underneath IKF, WK, whatever. Okay, we just decided we're going to do our own thing, personal reasons. That's what we did. Uh,
I
it's
call that non-denominational racing.
Yes, we had two events. One the first weekend of May, and then just last weekend we ran our second and final race of the year. Great turnouts at both events. We have 26 classes. We have 4 races a day, 3 hours of practice. You pay an $85 entry fee. And if you have not seen the awards on the Midwest Karting Association's Facebook page, you'll never see something like that anywhere in the country. Nothing knocking anybody else, okay? This girl next to me, she went way out on this stuff.
Which she always does.
Oh, wow. Okay. But the whole point here is that we enjoy doing this. I've always enjoyed it. Those that know me around the country, we have traveled around the country to many racetracks, okay? Been from the southeast to the northwest. Karting's our life. These kids and my wife will tell you, I live in the shop. That's what I do. But with Midwest Karting Association, it's come, be relaxed. The old saying, I tell people this right here, I want you to race hard, race clean, and have fun.
There you go.
We turn around and Lindsay brings out these big games anywhere from a 9-hole miniature golf course to this last race. We had like a
Soccer,
4-dimension
football,
deal that had
basketball.
4 different games on it that everybody can play. We actually had a steak feed. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
$20 got me a ribeye, we'll say, sizable plate, a filet about the same size, or chicken, baked potato, salad, green beans, corn for $20.
That's
Wherever we go in the country, we get. That's the type of things we do at our events.
Christy, you and I talked before about, what is going to be the roots of where we come from. And that's what we're creating right here at Midwest Karting. It's taking it back to the roots where the old days where you put your helmet on and you're competitors, but you take those off and we're all family. And that's what we are at Midwest Karting. And so when we end the day on Saturday and we have these big events together, it's so fun to see the dynamics come together. And even though you just kicked my butt on the racetrack, now we're best friends playing, basketball or baseball against each other out here in a big open field. That's why we do what we do. It's to make sure that family aspect is still here in the racing community.
So a few years ago, probably 2 years ago, I was talking to Xander Clements. And Xander and I were talking about why we are still in the sport. We don't really drive. I mean, he gets in a cart still periodically, but we don't really drive, and we lend our time, talent, and efforts into other things outside of the seat, right? And he said it the best. I'm here because I want other people to have the same experience I had at 8 years old and 12 years old and 16 years old and still having today. And it was right. I mean, he hit the nail right on the head. And if the old schoolers aren't helping bring up the new schoolers, then they're not gonna have the same experience, and it's all gonna become uber competitive. Whose dad can stroke the biggest check for the tuner and go to the big races? And they're going to miss out on so much at the club level where you build friendships and life lessons and you create a sense of community. That's being lost. It's starting to come back slowly, and I really want to see the club level racer, whether it's road racing, sprint racing, dirt racing, come back and succeed once again. There's ways of doing that. We need to pull together and help these various clubs make sure that they can survive and build a future for the upper level carter to move up to. And I think what you guys are doing out there is exactly that. You're helping these people race more often, not breaking the bank account, and making it a true event, not just a race.
Exactly. We've always said that if you can find something that brings the entire family to the racetrack and everybody has something to have fun with, then they're going to come back and support you. And so that's exactly what we do out here.
What do you think is going to be 2025? Take me down the road as to what you have planned for in the future.
2025 is going to be good. It's going to be our 40th year under Midwest Karting Association.
This was, like I said, I took it over in '85, right? Well, this coming
10 year
year
old
will be
Ellie.
the 40th year. I just now turned 45. Be my 40th year of promoting this event out here. So this coming year, there's going to be some great things coming out. Has something to do that there. On top of already what we're already kind of got planned going on already. Remember, our
Let's
event.
not have races on the same weekends next time, okay?
Well, our dates are always the first weekend of May and the second weekend
Dude,
of
that's
September,
Kentucky Derby weekend.
which is the following weekend of Labor Day.
Hey, if it helps you come, I will create Kentucky Derby at Lake Afton for you. We'll see you there.
Yeah. But no, we it's just like this year here. We kind of put our heads together. Lindsay's real big on this stuff, and I'm like I said, I'm old school, but she's the one that comes up with these new ideas and stuff. Okay,
That's
and
why she's the marketing guru.
huh?
That's why she's the marketing guru.
He brings
Exactly.
the business, I bring the fun.
Yeah. I think she learned that from her dad. Okay, but that's beside the point. But no, it's just
Whatever.
it's going good. We are looking for a great show. There's a lot to do with this right here, and you guys, anybody in racing understands. Sponsors, let me tell you, I don't know where you're at or what you're doing, but sponsors are a big part of anything you do. And the group of sponsors that we've got behind us and are continuing to be with us for 2025 plus, you can't do without them.
No.
But if I don't have the racers, I don't have the support from our sponsors, those of us who put on races, and there's only a handful of us, I tell people don't worry about the name at the top of the page. That schedule right there is for you a place to come race, have fun, have competition, go home and say you had fun.
Right.
Without that whole group, you don't need people like us. We got to have everybody.
Right.
I've always said, folks, I'd love to go to, run over east. We used to be able to go there at least a couple times a year. But we also had a series back here. And on social media, I've made comments today. I would love to have you come to my racetrack. But if you got a race in your own area, support it. If you don't support it, it may not be your next opportunity.
Absolutely. And road racing in itself is extremely expensive to put on because the track rentals are very, very high. And it's not a money grant for these tracks. It's just the price of doing business. And unfortunately, we as racers have to absorb that cost. And we're the ones that have to make sure the promoter's not losing their butt on the backside. And if we're not showing up at these events, then those events are going to go away. So racers have to show up, sponsors have to get engaged, and there's a lot of moving parts to make that a success. And you guys do it very well.
Yeah, it's just something I've always believed in. I can go back to the mid '80s when I was on the IKF board of directors, and we were basically underneath ICAP back then. Back then I was very heavily involved with sponsorships and stuff, and getting these sponsors, and then in return, whether you have banquets or whatever, even if you just have your racers, send them a letter, call them, whatever, tell them thank you. People, let me tell you, that goes a long, long ways to them people right there. So I'm telling you, for me, that's very important. And from experience, people by doing it in the past, when I've called them sponsors back, when they can tell me that, hey, you bet your butt I'm with you, because I appreciate your people calling me up and telling me thank you for sponsoring your series.
Right.
So sponsors a big thing. The key thing is, you racers, I know it's expensive out there. I've got 2 drivers, right? So I know what it's like. Thank God they both got good jobs. But anyway.
Daddy's money ran out a long time ago. What's he talking about?
I've been there, and I got the pain with a lot of the people. I really do. Do what you can. Support what you can. If you can come to Lake Afton, come see us, because I guarantee you, when you walk away from there, like we had this last weekend, we had like 6 that I know of people that come this past weekend had never, since 1961, ever been to Lake Afton. They are coming back in 2025 because of the whole atmosphere of the event.
That's awesome.
You know what?
We were just saying the other day that Alan's never been out there. I mean, obviously we've been to Topeka, but he has never been to Lake Afton either. So looks like it might be road trip time. That's a 2-day drive, though. Nothing's close to Mississippi. Nothing. Lindsay, got some questions for you.
Yes.
So our last podcast we had on Cameron Reed, which she just came back from Spain. She was over for the Tillotson T4 Cup. And one particular topic I did not hit on purpose is female drivers within motorsports. And I know my take on it, and I got a feeling I know your take on it. As a female driver, have you ever felt discriminated against or possibly treated differently because you were a female? Answer it honestly.
Absolutely. I grew up with an older brother, and so I had him on my side to help me learn how to drive, and I'll give him that credit all day long. But even with a brother, he was hard on me, and I had to earn his respect on the racetrack. We were in laydowns and piston boards together for 15 years, and it took a solid 2 to 3 years for him to actually recognize me as a driver and not just his little sister on the racetrack. And once
you were tapping into Kelly's pocketbook.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't want to share.
He's like, hey, give that back. But yeah, absolutely. Growing up as a young female in the racing world, I didn't know the difference. For me, it was just I was another driver out there. I didn't know that females from coast to coast weren't as popular as it is now. So for me, I always tell all the young females out there, don't set yourself up as saying, I'm a female in this sport and you need to give me, my own stuff. You're a driver. That go-kart, that car that you're driving, nobody knows what you are underneath that helmet. I always felt if I put myself out there as a female driver and that's what people saw me as, I felt the pressure was so much more because it's like everyone's watching you, waiting for you to make that mistake because you're not up to those, the level of the males out there. So for me, I always kept it, I'm just a driver under this helmet. When I take my helmet off, I've got a ponytail. So what? My go-kart doesn't know anything different. So I love that Cameron's out there. I was rooting for her. She did amazing out in Spain. Loved her podcast interview with you. So keep going, keep driving.
So during one of her heats, I was reading a bunch of her penalties. She had a couple pushbacks, and I think one of them stated behavior toward another competitor. I can only imagine which finger she used. But that's Cam. She is spicy and she is talented, and we're just glad to have her represent the United States. And she's got such a personality like you do. And the thing is, I get so many people. I actually had someone call me once, and they wanted to talk to me about being a female in motorsports and diversity and the whole DEI thing. And I don't subscribe to any of that. You're either the person for the job or you're not. I don't care what color you are, what shade of skin you have, what religion you came from. If you can do the job, then come on, step on up, swing for the cheap seats. And I can honestly say from my own personal experience, I raced for over 30 years, and I ended up with somebody like George Demanic. And George had several lady drivers because he said, they think clearer, quicker, and more concise. And I had a great mentor in Denise Johnston. And, I was always very fortunate to have 50 big brothers. We could all go out after a national somewhere. Hell, we all ended up at a roller skating rink one night. And I was there with 50 of the best people I could ever be with. Nothing's never going to happen to you. But on the racetrack, they'll carve your heart out at the end of that straightaway. They don't care
Yep.
who you are. You're one of the guys when that helmet goes on.
Exactly. We definitely had our run-ins, and I mean, we had some when I was younger. I remember pulling up. It was actually at my dad's race at Lake Afton, and in just our little can class, the dad walks up and says, "Don't you let her beat. Don't you let yourself get beat by her." And I looked at my dad and I said, "Me?" Like I was confused. Like, why are you
Yeah.
pointing me
Yeah.
out? I'm just a driver. And so I had one mission that race, and I don't care if I finished second to last, but he was not going to beat me.
I will like to throw something in here. Her first year that she went to Daytona, like in 2016, we went down there with a tag cart and her lay down piston port. She won the piston port class, piston port heavy. On her tag class, at them days, there was a bunch of them. There's a group of them.
Oh, yeah.
She wins it. What I'll always remember is when they was pushing back up there for the scales, okay? Guys are getting out of this cart wanting to know who won. And one of the guys standing says that cart right up there. When she took her helmet off, these guys all turned white as a sheet.
Yep.
They
Been
said,
there.
that girl beat us.
Yep. You should probably do it again.
Yeah.
That was the same day I think John Brown tackled me at the scale line for beating him. There was 9 of us that came across the line side by side, and John Brown, one of the best competitors out there.
Oh, yeah. Great people. So we have 3 generations of the Reeds now. And
Hey,
where are the grandkids going there, Grandpa? What's in for them?
Well, all I can say is right now, one getting ready to turn 4 who just now showed up. Okay. Her go-kart is already in the shed, gone through, race ready, way to go. Little kid cart with a little Comer motor on it. Probably, I'm assuming if I can pull this out sometime this next year, my new and best driver of the whole family outside of Grandpa will be heading to a sprint tracks here locally and start working on our driving skills.
So what is your sprint track there? Give them a shout out.
Well, basically, we've got Garnett's got a little sprint track about 2.5 hours north of us. One of the ones that I've always taken my kid to Brad and Lindsay to is a little one down by the lake, just southwest of Anthony, Kansas. Okay, and that's where I took the kids and take them down there with cones and et cetera, and worked on braking zones and et cetera, where it's just us alone.
Yes,
that's probably where we're going to start out with first, and then we'll move up to Garnett where the sprint track is. So I'm hoping not this coming year because she's only going to be 4 here shortly.
Perfect day.
Another year from now, her mommy and her daddy will have to retire from karting and start supporting their daughter.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's not really going to happen.
Probably not.
She loves me racing too much. She cries every time we leave the racetrack. It's actually really funny. So there's no doubt she's going to be a racer for sure.
That's awesome. So now that you have 3 generations, you guys are running your series over at Lake Afton.
Yep.
Is there anything in the sport that you can attribute to anything in life? What would it be?
Family.
Yeah.
The family aspect of all of it. When we were talking about earlier Lake Afton and what we do and stuff, one of the most rewarding pieces leaving that track was all the people that came up and said, this is exactly the atmosphere I want to bring my family to.
Yeah.
And that's just rewarding. We do this because we love the people. We love the memories that we get to make together, not because we're out here making big bucks. You and I both know that we've won some great trophies, but they don't amount to anything, but getting a little dusty every now and then. So
we got a couple seconds here. What I feel is one of the biggest challenges facing road racing, especially, is bringing new people into the sport. What do you two feel would be beneficial to help introduce new people, not old people that got stuff sitting in their garage and they finally make their way back? Kids are out of high school and college. Now they got some money to race. No. I'm talking new people coming out of sprint racing into road racing. What is it going to take to introduce those new racers into our portion of this sport?
Well, what I've been doing for a few years now is I get new people that come to me. I get them to come to a racetrack. whether it's here or Oklahoma, wherever we may be. I get them there, let them see the different varieties of the different go-karts, and I explain to them that $40,000 go-kart over there is not what you need in. We
Yeah.
need to come over here. Let's get down here regionally and then build up to it. And talking to the people. Don't BS them. Okay. Be honest with the people. It also explain to them, hey, it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it don't have to be the most expensive.
Right.
When I got people asking me questions, give them the right answer. Don't freaking beat them around the bush. Tell them like it is. And I've had more people, new people getting in that I've been involved with, which makes me feel good because you got to be honest with these people. They don't have to buy the brand new go-kart. They can go out there. There's used go-karts out there all over the country. Just get a good quality one and go enjoy it and have fun. So they just got to understand there's fun there. It's not for money, which is I'm very thankful of.
Yep, me too.
But like we're all sitting there, it's family. You race for the weekend. Helmets are off. We're having fun. That's what's got to be.
I think it's all about creating that experience. Much like anything that you do, to draw that attention, it has to be worth somebody's attention to sit here and say, why am I going to go spend an entire day at the racetrack? So I think learning along the way with my dad here, who's done this for 40 years from a promoting stance, you got to create an experience that want to make people come back. And then that word of mouth from everybody that, visits your event is one of the most, biggest blessings that you can have on an event.
Person-to-person referrals are very strong.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Words of mouth are the best things that we can have.
Guys, I appreciate your time. I'm honored that you joined me. Get Kelly something other than a flip phone. Wait a minute. We got one more picture.
We do.
One more picture to show. It should be number 3.
Some of the best times we've ever.
So hanging in the background is a hot pink bra, a thong.
Yeah, we
paper.
Well, now what happened there was, Christy, was we were fixing to leave one night. This was at Barber, and we were kind of the last ones to leave, and somebody wanted a picture of it, so they asked my group if we would stand in front of it.
You didn't have anything to do with that, is what you're saying.
No.
I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah, we had nothing to do with that, ma'am.
Racing is so much fun, and we can show up to the racetrack.
I don't buy that.
Memories forever, right? But again, it's about the family that we have that's at the racetrack with us.
I think that bra, there's a picture of Kelly wearing it.
No, I think the promoter, the race director that day was the one wearing it because he was wondering when we come in the next morning.
Mr. Robbie Harper.
I was about to say that can't be Robbie Harper, could it? No.
No.
Guys, again, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do for our sport. Thank you for continuing the tradition we all enjoy. And thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks for having us.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Bye.
Guys, that's kind of our wrap up. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. If you have any requests for future podcasts, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me. And that's Christy, Christy, at driveyourline.com. And our next episode, we will have Mr. Daytona and Mr. Deltona. We are being joined by Rick and Randy Folks next week. We're going to talk about in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about the legacy that is the Folks family and their incredibly amazing background and history in this sport. Stay safe, people. Take your friends to a racetrack. Buy that extra pit pass. Take a kid with you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.